ESPN today ranked the top 10 players under 25 based on ceiling. This isn't
Paige Bueckers is finally getting a little reality check once again from the media because, ESPN just told it like it was. The best point guard under 25 is our girl, Caitlin Clark.
ESPN didn't just drop a list. They dropped a bomb that rattled timelines, poked every fan base, and hijacked the basketball conversation in one swipe. One headline, one ranking, and suddenly the internet went oxygen low. Feeds froze, group chats lit up, clips got clipped, takes got hotter, and the quote tweets turned into a wildfire. At the center of it all, Caitlin Clark, not labeled most popular, not biggest name, but the word that starts fights and ends friendships. The best under 25. That single word carries weight. It rewrites pecking orders. It redraws lines in the sand. It tells you who the league revolves around now and who has to adjust. And that's why rival fan bases didn't just disagree, they detonated. Paige loyalists posted efficiency graphs. Reese diehards fired off double-double receipts. Boston backers pulled the two-way anchor card. But before you pick a side, ask this. What if ESPN didn't overreach? What if they simply said the quiet part out loud? Because here's the uncomfortable truth for anyone still clinging to it's just hype. When a player warps defenses 30 feet from the rim, shifts broadcast schedules, spikes attendance in every building, and still stacks numbers that stand up under the harshest light, you can call it many things. Hype isn't one of them. The tears, the rage, the screaming? That might not be proof ESPN is wrong. It might be proof Clark's impact is too big to ignore. So let's strip out the noise, break this down piece by piece, and look at why this moment isn't just a list drop. It's a line in the sand, and on one side of it, the WNBA's future is already standing. But before we get lost in the arguments and the memes, let's rewind to how the spark hit the powder. Here's what actually happened. No spin, no smoke. ESPN rolled out its top 25 under 25 ranking, and this wasn't a snapshot of who's hottest this second. It was a projection, a ceiling check, who shapes the next 5 years list. Different game, different criteria. And sitting at the very top, in bold, was Caitlin Clark. The internet didn't take a breath. Within minutes, timelines were basically sirens. Crying emojis, paragraph-long replies, threads titled, "Be Serious." The Paige Bueckers camp called it premature. Angel Reese supporters called it disrespectful to production. Aaliyah Boston's base said the backbone never gets the credit the spotlight steals. And in between the think pieces and the meme storms, a pattern popped up. Everyone heard best and translated it as they just crowned a face. But that's not what this ranking was built to measure. The list wasn't asking who peaked last night. It was asking who breaks the game open tomorrow. That's a crucial distinction. Ceiling is about scalability. What happens when you give a player better reps, better spacing, better chemistry, and bigger stages? It's about whether a skill set holds when defenses scheme for you first, second, and third.
Due to injuries, Caitlin Clark has been limited to 13 games this season, averaging 17 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds. But when healthy, Clark's impact is enormous. She stretches the floor with her shooting range, pushes the pace, picks apart defenses with her passing. The 23-year-old brings an unmatched excitement factory every time she's on the court, and her confidence spreads to the whole team. She's the biggest draw on the road of any WNBA player, so her effect on the entire league is huge. She is the league. She's not a needle mover.
It's about whether your presence forces a coaching staff to toss out the old plan and write a new one from scratch. That's why the reaction felt less like a debate and more like a meltdown. The word best here wasn't just about talent. It was about definition. Who defines the league? Who defines the matchups? Who defines the broadcast slate? When ESPN plants a flag, they're not only talking about points or highlights. They're talking about gravitational pull. And like it or not, Clark's game and aura pull everything into orbit. Now, here's where the discourse usually gets slippery. It's hype. It's marketing. It's clicks. Easy words. Convenient shields. But the write-up didn't lean on vibes. It leaned on receipts. Production that survives context. Context that explains production. And impact that shows up in both the box score and the building. On court, it's logo range that stretches the geometry of the defense. Tempo control that quickens or slows a game on command, and creation numbers that make everyone around her more valuable. Off-court, it's the uncomfortable data point no rival fan wants to discuss. The league simply behaves differently when she's on the schedule. So when people say bias, what they're often reacting to is the shock of seeing a hierarchy written down. It's one thing to feel it. It's another to watch it printed in ink. But ink doesn't care about feelings, it cares about evidence. And whether you arrive as a fan or arrive as a skeptic, the evidence that ESPN leaned on hits the same. Numbers, context, impact. You can argue the order. You can argue the margins. What's getting harder to argue is the premise. And that's the pressure point that set every timeline ablaze. This wasn't ESPN anointing a favorite. It was ESPN describing the game the way teams already prepare for it. Which raises the next question the debate tried to dodge. What exactly makes Clark's case so hard to shake? Let's start with production. Even in a season cut short by injury, Caitlin Clark is averaging around 16 to 17 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds per game. For a second-year player? That's absurd. But raw stats don't tell the full story. What makes Clark unique is how she bends the geometry of the entire court. Defenses are forced to stretch out to 30 feet the second she crosses half court. That opens lanes, creates passing angles, and instantly makes her teammates more dangerous. Think about it this way. Most guards stretch defenses a step or two behind the arc. Clark pulls up from the logo like it's a layup. That's not just spacing. That's panic for every coach drawing up a game plan. And on top of that, she's not just scoring, she's creating. 8 assists a game in a league where many guards can barely crack 3? That's leadership. That's control. That's why ESPN said she's not just a needle mover. She is the needle. Of course, the loudest pushback came from Paige Bueckers' camp. Ranked number 2, Paige is undeniably gifted.
Caitlin Clark's pick and roll mate coming in at number 3 to 6'5" center. Aaliyah Boston, I would take her over Angel Reese. I just think she's more talented and more skilled. Angel Reese does have a higher motor, but we talk about the size, the skill, the ability to pass the ball, pass out of double teams, play out of the short pick and roll, shoot the 3, shoot the mid-range, score with the left hand, right hand around the basket.
Smooth mid-range, efficient shooting, star presence. She's everything you want in a cornerstone player. But here's the brutal truth. Timing hasn't been kind to her. General managers once predicted she'd be Hall of Fame material from day one. And then Caitlin Clark walked into the league a year earlier, smashed records, dragged Indiana into the playoffs, and instantly became the face of women's basketball. Suddenly, Paige's very solid rookie numbers looked ordinary. Not because she wasn't good, but because Clark reset the bar so ridiculously high. ESPN even admitted it. Paige is great, but Clark's rookie year was so explosive it made everyone else look smaller by comparison. That's the cruel reality of expectations. Paige was supposed to be the future, but Clark already is the present. Next up, Aaliyah Boston at number 3. A defensive anchor, a paint monster, and a player with the size and skill to dominate inside. Fever fans know it. Without Boston, Indiana doesn't function. But here's the catch. Her dominance still relies on guard play to set her up in the right spots. Clark, by contrast, doesn't wait for opportunities, she creates them. That independence is priceless. And then there's Angel Reese, coming in at number 5. Nobody questions her motor. She's relentless on the boards, she's productive, and she brings grit every night. But does she alter defensive schemes league-wide? Not really. No team builds an entire strategy just to stop Angel Reese from 30 feet out. With Clark, it's mandatory. Reese is valuable. Clark is unguardable. That's the difference. And this is where the conversation goes nuclear. ESPN didn't just talk about her basketball skills. They openly admitted her off-court impact is unmatched in WNBA history. Not just under 25, ever. Clark is the biggest road draw the league has ever seen. Think about that. Teams literally sell out arenas just because she's in town. Ticket resellers jack prices through the roof. TV ratings spike when her games are scheduled. Merchandise sales? Off the charts. Critics cry. That's marketing, not basketball. Wrong. That is basketball. Professional sports live on 2 currencies, production and draw. You need stars who can dominate, but also stars who make people care. Clark is both. She's a highlight reel on the court and an economic engine off it. That's not hype. That's reality. Now here's where the haters get really loud. It's too soon. She hasn't played enough games. She's just hype. But let's check the timeline. Rookie year? She breaks 60-plus records, makes all WNBA first team, finishes top 4 in MVP voting, drags her team to the postseason, and completely shifts the league's economy. That's not hype. That's history. And she's only 23. Nowhere near her prime. If this is the floor, what's the ceiling? Year 2 has already shown that even with injuries, her impact hasn't dipped. She's still producing, still drawing sellouts, still dominating headlines. If she's already the best under 25, what happens at 27? At 29? That's the nightmare for every rival fan base. She's still climbing. So why is this ranking sparking so much outrage? Simple. Every other fan base feels robbed. Paige's supporters think ESPN disrespected her efficiency. Reese's fans point to her double-doubles. Boston's fans argue she's the true foundation of Indiana. And they're not wrong to fight for their favorites. But here's the bigger truth. Clark changes everything. She doesn't just produce. She alters markets. She forces TV networks to shift schedules. She makes opponents design entire defensive schemes just for her. That's transformation, not favoritism. ESPN isn't playing favorites here. They're acknowledging what the entire league already knows, but some fan bases don't want to admit. At the end of the day, ESPN's ranking wasn't about hype or popularity contests. It was about identifying the player who defines the future of the WNBA right now. And whether you like it or not, that player is Caitlin Clark. She scores, she creates, she rebounds, she leads. She sells out arenas and brings new eyes to the game. Paige is great. Boston is dominant. Reese is relentless. But Clark is transformational. She's not just part of the league. She is the league's direction. ESPN just made it official, but deep down, fans already knew. So here's the final question. If she's already number 1 at 23, where will she be at 27 or 30? That's not hype. That's inevitability. And that's exactly why the internet can't stop talking.